I mean, let me ask you a question. Do you know there's 27 books of the New Testament, yeah? Why is there 27 and not 28 or 26? Do you know the reason? There was a man called Athanasius, who in the year 349, I believe, yeah? He came and decided that it's going to be 27. Now, is there, he decided up until Book of Revelation, okay? My question now is, why does he have the permission to decide how many books are in the New Testament? Why does he have that permission? You see, that's the problem. Yeah.
So Allah physically didn't come, but He says, I send my ruah. Like ruah is a spirit, isn't it? So if Allah He sent His spirit, He didn't just come and breathe Himself and then
exactly. So we say that spirit is the angel Gabriel.
So no. Is it, they're not different, angel Gabriel and spirit?
Say again?
Quran, they're not different.
What?
The Holy Spirit and angel Gabriel.
We're saying it's the same thing.
The same.
Yeah.
Okay. In our Bible, Gabriel angel appeared 4 times. 2 times in Daniel, chapter 8 and chapter 9, and then another time, the 3rd time he appeared to John, father Zacharias, when he said to him, your wife's going to have a small boy, and then the 4th time he came to actually give it to Mary. So our Bible says clearly that he is the angel Gabriel, actually mentioned even his name, not only like every other angel. So this is what I become now. For me, it's like, I'm not watching anybody else anything, but for me, studying the Bible and looking at the Quran makes me sad. All my life I thought we serve the same God. We all the same. Look,
do you know the Quran says something beautiful about this? It says, look, Ya Ahl al-Kitab, O people of the book, ta'alaw ila kalimatin sawa. Let's come to a common agreement, yeah? That we don't worship except for one God, and that we don't take other than this God as arbab, as lords or gods, yeah? Min dunillah. That's it. That's the main thing is we believe that if we believe in one God, worship the one creator God that started the creation and is maintaining it and sustaining it and developing it, that's the God. We don't believe that Jesus is that God. Do you get the point? Jesus is a human being.
You believe in Muhammad? You believe in...
Wait. So Jesus, is this your brother? Oh, sorry. No, sorry. Jesus, okay, we believe is a prophet.
So even if you believe that as a prophet, that's fine. But do you believe everything Jesus said up by himself?
Sorry?
Do you believe what Jesus said up by himself?
Yeah, but the thing is, here's what I will say. Look, what's your name again, sister? Leon. Yeah. Okay, look. I believe we say, and not just us, biblical scholars as well, they say, look, the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and all of the books of the New Testament, we don't know who wrote them. Sometimes we know, like with the 13 books of Paul and so on, there's dispute about it. But the 4 books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, who are these people? We don't know.
They follow Jesus.
Yeah, but let me explain. We don't have. No. It's not that we don't believe that. Biblical scholars don't believe that.
It doesn't matter about them.
Yeah, but I understand.
You must remember.
Yeah.
If my scholar might say something different, which is Christianity. There's a lot of different.
So how do you know? How do you know that? If you read the Bible, right? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. How do you know what you're reading when Jesus speaks about himself is actually from Jesus?
Okay, the reason I believe, first of all, it was prophecy about Jesus in Old Testament, which is Muhammad believed the Torah, the scripture of the book. He said even you must believe them. So whether they change it or not, Muhammad actually agreed with the Torah, and he said that the scripture of the book of the... But so now, my point is that, Mohammed Hijab, is that even for us to believe is that Jesus was mentioned in Old Testament. Before even he was born 500 years ago, they were mentioned to him, the child will be born, Isaiah 9, Isaiah 53, how he's going to die, how he's going to crucify. I think that helps me that this, before Jesus came, all this prophesied happened.
Right.
So we saw this.
I've got another question then. Okay, so you're saying, how do I know that the New Testament is from Jesus? You're saying the Old Testament says it. How do you know that the Old Testament, is from the first 5 books are from Moses, the rest of the books are from the prophets? How do you know that that book, goes back to the source, wherever the source is meant to be? So in the case of the first 5 books, that those first 5 books actually go back to Moses. The reason why I ask you this question is this, is because in Islam, when we read the Quran, or when we have a hadith, we say that, look, there's a chain of narration. So that chain of narration is that we say, for example, that the Prophet spoke to this person, spoke to this person, spoke to this person, and then we can have a chain of narration. But the thing is, John existed 95 years after Jesus. Yeah. So what makes us know that John met? He didn't meet. First of all, he didn't meet Jesus. So who is narrating that information to John? So we say that there's a problem with narration here. There's no precedent. There's no provenance. How do we know? Because the burden of proof is upon the one who's making the claim. So if you ask me, like with the Quran, what's the chain of narration? I can give you 10 chains of narration. Yeah, I can say this person told this person told this person told us.
So the Quran's not changed. You mean like
we don't.
Was from Allah Muhammad is perfect.
Yeah.
There's no contradiction in the Quran.
We don't say there's any contradiction in the Quran. We would challenge someone. But the Quran, look, it says itself. If this God was from other than God, you would have found in it many contradictions. So this is one of the challenges of the Quran. By the way, the Bible doesn't make that challenge. The Quran makes this challenge. Yeah.
The only problem is that Mohammed Hijab for me is that this Jesus that as you all believe is a good Messiah, is a good prophet, even that, but here you are, all of you, you're not be able to believe even one word he said about himself.
No,
he
but
said he came to die,
what I'm saying to you, look,
the sinner. How can you deny that?
I'm not denying everything in the New Testament. No. It's not black and white in the sense that, look, historians when they look at documents, they say this might have been attributed to him, this might not have been attributed to him. They look at the sources. So we know with the New Testament there's different sources, Q source, T source, whatever it is, and we look back.
Even though Mohammed Hijab, even though I didn't see any problem in the New Testament, for me those men, all of them followed Jesus. They ate with him, they drink with him.
What's the proof of that? So what's the proof that Matthew? So what's the proof that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John met Jesus Christ?
The proof because Jesus chose them. They're his disciples. His followers.
No. Where's the material evidence for it?
But there is many evidence, even historical.
Where can you give me one?
I can't give you exactly now, but for me, as Bible is my book, and I'm sure you will agree with me, as Quran is your book, you believe everything in the Quran, I believe everything in the Bible. But the only my question is that I want my beautiful brother, sister, Muslim to know this truth. It's the truth. I want people, not only you guys, even the whole world, because Jesus is, his life. He was perfect life. He has never sinned. He never even attempted. He tempted by the devil, but he didn't win. He didn't lose. Basically, we all know that.
My sister, my question to you is this: you need to think about it critically, okay? It's not just. I'm not trying to, I'm not saying nothing about the Bible. I'm just saying that look, if you ask me for the material evidence, material historical evidence of how we know the Quran goes back to Muhammad, goes back to the people that like Muhammad said it through the angel Gabriel, right? I can give you a chain of narration.
You know what?
Yeah.
Sorry, Mohammed Hijab. The problem for me, the big problem is that even though the Quran is 99% true, everything from God, there's two topics. The most important topic in the Bible is the secret in the Quran, and that is really shocked my heart. I mean, these two, and then plus there's a lot of story in the Bible, in the Quran I saw about Abraham.
But before we get there, you're judging the Quran with the Bible. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, but what I'm trying to get to you is that the Bible itself is not verified. So it's like if I'm measuring, your height with a ruler that's bent, it wouldn't give you the right measurement. In likewise terms, I would say to you that the Bible, the Old Testament, and look, let me tell you something, okay? There's a whole field of study called text criticism, okay? What this field of study aims to do is to look at, to see what is most probably the Bible and what isn't. Look at the Old Testament. You got to have the Masoretic text, you have the Septuagint, you have the Dead Sea Scrolls, and then you decide what goes in and what comes out. That's what scholars do, and that's why you have different versions of the Bible, okay? And that's the Old Testament. The Septuagint is in Greek language, okay? It's not even in the Hebrew. Septuagint is Greek. They have to decide whether or not they want to put that into the Bible. You have to translate it first. So, but the thing is, the Septuagint, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the Masoretic text, all of those three don't have a chain of narration back to Moses. And likewise, they don't have a chain of narration back to the prophets and all of the other people that's meant to be. What I'm saying to you is because of this, we don't know what Moses actually said. It's possible. I'm not saying that the Bible is all wrong. I'm not saying this. Yeah, I'm not saying the Old Testament is all nonsense. I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying the New Testament is all. What I'm saying is that as it stands, there's no way of finding out. I mean, let me ask you a question. Do you know there's 27 books of the New Testament, yeah? Why is there 27 and not 28 or 26? Do you know the reason? There was a man called Athanasius, who in the year 349, I believe, yeah? He came and decided that it's going to be 27. Now, is there, he decided up until Book of Revelation, okay? My question now is, why does he have the permission to decide how many books are in the New Testament? Why does he have that permission? You see, that's the problem. The problem is, there's nothing in the Bible that says, even ironically, that says that there's 27 books of the New Testament. Athanasius, there was not even a council, there was no council that decided what the New Testament would be. So for that reason, I say, look, what Jesus said is not equivalent to what the Bible says. Do you get the point?
I know what you mean, and I can't argue with something I don't know.
Right.
But what I know is that these followers of Jesus, they even sacrificed themselves because of him, because of the message that was given. Some of them hanged, some of them killed. We know the story. So how can anyone, without proof, without seeing Jesus, without being with him, so him,
we're denying. We're saying that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John did never see Jesus.
They never see Jesus.
They never see him.
All this story they were
No
telling
one
about
says.
him is not true.
No. What I'm saying is, no one says that they saw him. All the scholars of
They said themselves.
No.
Okay, for example, Mohammed Hijab, if I said
They
today,
didn't say that.
If I said today,
Yeah.
I came to this high park and I talked to Mohammed Hijab.
Yes.
So if I want to tell this story, what happened today, the next 10 years, for
Okay.
example.
Yeah.
So now, I could say, I talked to Mohammed Hijab, I was asking him questions, he was explaining to me, I can describe how
You're saying that they said-
you look, tall,
Well,
I can describe you got
yes,
lovely
yes.
smile. Honestly, no, I could. So then, if I tell my story, story 10 years ago, and then someone will come to me, you're liars.
Let me tell you something, sister. You're right.
How did you
Let me tell you.
feel?
I'll tell you what I told. Yeah. When is John historically dated? The Gospel of John. When is it dated?
No, I don't know about it.
I'll tell you. Historians say 95 AD. That means 95 years after. Let me tell you what it's really like. Now, when was World War II?
To be honest,
It's okay. World War II started 1939 and it ended 1945. When was World War I? 1914 to 1918. So good 100 years ago, yeah? Now imagine me, I tell you a witness report of what happened in World War I. I tell you this is what happened. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to say, how old are you? I said 28 years old. So how do you know what happened in World War I? Now, I could know what happened in World War I from talking to other people. But if I came 100 years after, there's no way I saw the people in World War I. That's the similitude of John to Jesus. John, Gospel of John, is dated 95 AD, which means almost 100 years. It's like, World War I? Not even World War II, World War I. Yeah, that's the distance between Jesus and John.
John, the one he was in John first, or you talking John in Revelation?
No, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Gospel writer. But even this name John, it's just a pen name. It's not really what his name was. Most scholars say that that's not him. It's not someone who met Jesus. You have it misunderstood. No one says that these are the disciples of Jesus. The historians and text critics don't say that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Christian ones, not the Muslim ones or the Jewish ones, the Christian ones themselves, they say that these people are not people that ate and slept and or this and with Jesus Christ. Likewise, on the other hand, we say that the Quran and the Hadith is narrated and preserved by those people who actually walked with the Prophet Muhammad, his friends. So we have the list of names of his friends. So Prophet Muhammad's friends like Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali, and Zubayr and this and that, and his wives. And
those people, they were following Muhammad,
yes,
his companion.
yes,
so everything they said in the Quran is true.
exactly. So what we say is that the Quran was recorded by the Sahaba, the companions, whereas the Bible was not recorded by the disciples.
They did.
But
First of all,
where's the evidence for that?
To be honest, I can't give you evidence today. Faith is not about evidence.
No, but no one says
know
that, though.
We all believe God, not because we saw him or we touch him. This is what makes us
So then we can be
different
Hindu,
from
we can be
everything.
Sikh, we can be Buddhist.
No, that's why we're different.
Yeah.
Mohammed Hijab, from Hindu, Sikh, me and you are different is because we know there's a creator. We know that.
Yeah, Sikhs believe in Creator as well.
There might be, but it doesn't matter. Even within Christianity, some people might have different Jesus. They might say something different, but that does not matter. But for me, the Bible is the base for me.
Yeah, but your base, that's the problem. You said that there is evidence, but what I'm saying is that Christian scholars themselves, they deny this. Bruce Metzger, he wrote a book.
I don't
He
follow
denies.
them. I don't follow scholar. I follow the book I have
Fine,
in my
but
hand.
you have to have evidence.
But that's the evidence.
Look, let me tell you something, sister. Let me tell you something. What if I go to me and my friends in university? They decide to make a new version of the Bible. We'll call it the new 2020 version of the Bible. Like you have the new international version, this and that. We mix up the manuscripts and we say, here, this is your base. What would you say to me?
The story still stands about Jesus' story, why he came, what purpose did God send him.
But I understand this.
That he died on the cross for the whole humanity. Mohammed Hijab, that story, I don't care what changes, everything else changed. But this beautiful story never changed.
Look,
It's
what
still the
we're
same.
saying is, how do you know?
Believe that.
Yeah, but why? Look, what I'm saying is this: is that we have to have evidence that the
We
source.
have evidence Jesus came from a virgin woman.
We believe in that because
Yeah,
of.
but what happened and he died for you on the cross.
Let me explain, right? So what we say is this. We say that we have evidence that the first thing we need to have is evidence that the book that we're holding in our hands that claims to be divine authority from God, yeah, is actually narrated by the one who claimed to be the prophet.
That's the problem with hijab. If Muhammad is receiving all this from angel, and this angel Gabriel is a pure angel who literally stands the right of hand of God. So even if you call him a spirit, that's fine. But this angel, I wouldn't say this angel is lying, telling Muhammad different story and telling Mary different story.
Exactly.
And that is really question for me.
No. Yeah, so here's what we would say. Look, we would say that, before, if you look at the Bible, you'll find contradictory verses in the sense that, look, you'll find that sometimes Jesus, he says, do not go in the way of the Gentiles, for I was only sent for the lost sheep of Israel, right?
But that's no contradiction.
No, and then you have, you have other verses that
Yeah.
Well, okay, so look, the reason why we say, our narrative is this. We say that those who came before, Jesus, Moses, Abraham, etc., they came for their people and their time. So Jesus and Moses came for the lost sheep of Israel. Yeah? We say...
Jesus said it himself. I'm just repeating what Jesus said. But Jesus said at the end, when he died, when he rose from the dead, he said, go tell the whole world.
Yeah, I understand.
When they believe, baptize them, and then teach them what I taught you.
Yeah.
What would you say to that message?
What I will say is this, is that's why I was talking about the contradiction, because you have some verses that indicate to the universality of the message.
What's the problem with that message?
What I'm saying is, you have some verses in the New Testament that indicate to universality, and other verses which indicate to exclusivity to children of Israel. But what we're saying...
In the Quran, you see the Quran is what something contradicting, which is
we can come to the Quran after, but the point I'm making is this. Our narrative is that Jesus was sent to his people. Moses was sent to his people. Abraham was sent to his people. We say that Muhammad ﷺ was sent to everybody.
Muhammad sent it only for Islam or for everybody?
For everybody, because the Quran says, وَمَا أَرْسَلَكَ إِلَّا كَافَةً لِلنَّاسِ. We haven't sent you except for all of the human beings. Yeah, so this is what it says in the Quran.
So the Quran says that like Muhammad is sent this for the whole world.
That's right.
What about Jesus then?
So we say that Jesus was sent to the children of Israel. That's what Jesus says.
He said it, he might say that, probably for that
According to the New
time,
Testament.
Right. Probably for that specific time, there is a reason maybe he say that, but that doesn't mean Jesus came to save only the Jew. I wouldn't be saved then, I'm a Gentile.
No, exactly.
Can you imagine?
Look.
I wouldn't.
Look, let me ask you a question. Moses, when Moses was sent, who was he sent to?
Moses to save Israel from Egypt.
All right, so good. So he sent to the people of Israel, right?
Yeah, because they were a slave in Egypt.
All right, so is there a problem of a prophet of God being sent to only one group of people?
Because they were slaves. They needed it.
Yeah,
They
no, but
cried to
it's
God.
not just, he's not the
God
only
sent it
prophet,
to
right?
him.
You have many prophets in the Old
But
Testament.
God chose you, Mohammed Hijab. God can choose you today.
But
Can
sister,
choose you today to do something.
the idea of God sending a messenger or a prophet to only some people and not others, this is something within the Old Testament that you must agree. If you,
Absolutely, yes,
Yeah.
I agree. But what I'm saying is Moses being sent to Egypt specifically for those
not just
slaves.
Moses, we have other prophets.
Of course, all
Yeah.
like, for example, Abraham, whatever, all of
Yeah.
them.
Even though Abraham is not mentioned as a prophet in the Old Testament, but yeah, I agree with
He's
you.
not even. So
Yeah.
what I'm saying is
But he's a
that
patriarch and so on.
Abraham is the faith for us. Even For us to be called the children of God is because of Abraham's faith. So anyone cut from Abraham is basically saved by faith.
I get you, but what I'm saying to you is that the idea of a prophet coming to some people and not to other people is something acceptable, right? Because it's something which even the Old Testament says. So the Old Testament says that you can have some prophets that are sent for not all of the people, but some people, like David or Solomon. David was a prophet, Moses was a prophet. These are all prophets, right? So what we're saying is that Jesus fit the same category, as all of those prophets that came before. He was sent to some people.
He's the same as
Okay, let me ask you a question. You believe that David was a prophet, yeah? It's in the.
David is like a king who loved God.
Yeah, he's also. I agree, but he's also a prophet in the Bible.
He never preaching anything like that.
No, but he's a prophet. He's a prophet according to. Yeah.
That's fine.
So okay, let's take him as an example. Moses is a prophet, right?
Yes.
But let's take David as an example. When David came, when he was preaching, or Solomon, when he was preaching, or when all of these people, do we have what they said written, word for word?
We have David, the whole New Testament.
No. What I mean is, we have some stories, but what they actually narrated, their books, their message.
David book. First Samuel, Second Samuel.
But not in its entirety. I understand that. Yeah, you have narrations.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
You know the story. You guys believe in it's in the
Look,
Quran.
we believe, of course, we do.
Even though it's not the same, it's there in the Quran.
Okay, good. Now, here's my point: so you believe in David and Solomon, yeah?
Absolutely.
And
I love the way he praised God, the way he worshipped
good.
God.
And so we say that we believe in them as well, yeah? They were sent to their people, right? So David, we could say David, was he sent to the South African? Was he sent to the Aborigine? No. David was sent to his people. You get it? So he was sent to, Solomon was sent to his people. So we say that Jesus was also sent to his people. All right.
But my problem is Mohammed Hijab. He said Jesus is being sent as a prophet, but you not be able to believe everything he said by himself.
Pardon?
Or you not be able to believe everything.
Now, what I'm
he said
saying is
about
that here's the issue. With those books that came before and those prophets, we don't know for sure exactly what they said. We can have an estimated guess. Like they all came and told the people that worship one God and X, Y, Z. But exactly what they have said has not been preserved fully.
But the New Testament, the reason it's called New Testament is because of God is doing something new through His Son Jesus.
I understand that. But nevertheless, if you look at the New Testament corpus, even then, when the Gentile woman came and she asked for the salvation, he said, "I'm not,
She didn't ask salvation. She asked for her daughter to heal her.
So he referred to Gentiles as the dogs, right?
No, he didn't.
And he did.
Not like that, the story.
Should we get the?
This woman, listen.
I just want to have. I've never had a conversation with you for the first time. So.
No, but we're having a conversation.
For example, that woman, she cried after Jesus because her daughter was sick, because her daughter had that demon.
Yeah. So you know who I'm talking about, yeah?
Oh, yeah. So
but she was a Gentile.
Jesus said to her something about and then because of her faith, even the dog eats after the table, whatever left over. So Jesus likes her
But
faith.
sister, listen. What I'm saying is, it's not difficult, to have an interpretation of the New Testament that makes Jesus only sent to the do you know how we know that? Look at James and Paul when they were differing over how salvation will have an effect on people. Paul is, he was of the view that the Gentiles can be saved. But James was about the observance of the law and so on. The point I'm making to you is simple, The point I'm making to you is simple, is that you can interpret the Bible, the New Testament, as an exclusive message to the children of Israel for Jesus. You can interpret it, I'll give it to you. You can interpret it as a universalist message as well. I'm big open, But there are these contradictory verses. We can't lie about it. So on the one hand, you have this Jesus saying, "Do not go in the way of the Gentiles, for I was only sent to the lost sheep of Israel." And then you have, baptized in the way of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So these two don't. It's either one of those two, right? If you want to say I agree with the second one, no problem. I agree with you, no problem. But the issue is you can have two interpretations. Our interpretation is something which is not ridiculous from your perspective, which is in line with the exclusive message of Jesus Christ, which is the fact that Jesus was sent for the lost sheep of Israel. Now, what we see. Pardon?
Do you believe Jesus is different than
Yeah, for a purpose. He was sent to launch people for a purpose.
Sister, let us come in.
So find.
No, you
She doesn't need you, brother. She's very capable. She's very capable.
There are a lot of things.
Please, I don't like this three men. Sorry, brother. There's three men like bullying her and trying to.
I know.
Just let her talk.
No, we can't.
We can have a conversation with you afterwards, brother.
We hear you so much.
We can talk to you afterwards. But it's only she wants to speak to me. She does. Do you want him to speak on your behalf? No, she wants to. She doesn't want you to speak on her behalf. Bro, she does not want you to
I
speak
never
on her
spoken
behalf.
to him. I just want to have a.
You can speak to me afterwards. But
Sister, how long you gonna stand there for him?
That's fine. That's fine.
just let the sister finish what she's saying.
Because as you're doing this, it's also propagating what
Yeah, exactly. Because there are a lot of aspects of your answers which are wrong. That's not Christianity.
All right, so
what you're answering.
let the sister talk, please, brother.
So we want to.
Brother, I understand.
Michael.
So you want to talk
I see. Look, you put her off.
No, we don't want to do that. Mohammed, my name is Michael.
How are you, my friend?
Pleased to meet
Are
you.
you okay with them speaking and taking your turn? So, you've made her upset, man.
No.
You've made her upset. No, you've made her upset, to be honest.